Okay, let's call this meeting to order. Guess we'll do roll call.
Neil Brown.
Here.
Gene Crosswhite. Here. Austin Evans.
Here.
Eddie Payne.
Here.
Reggie Redwine.
Here.
Judy Whipple. Here.
Okay, we have approval of, well, we have our last minutes from our last meeting.
October 24th. I believe.
Oh, right here. Oh, okay. So this was October 24th of 2024 was our last meeting. Do we have a motion to approve those meetings?
I'll make a motion.
Do we have a second?
I second it.
All in favor of approving those minutes?
Aye. Aye.
Aye. Okay, having the minutes have been approved. Scheduled business, where is the, yeah. Thanks, this is just for,
Yep, there you go.
okay. All right, we're going to have a discussion first on the possible action to approve. The owner of the property at 1000 South Main Street is requesting changing the zoning, I believe, from residential to C6. Is the applicant here for,
Just walked in. Austin.
where's Mr. Matthews? Oh. Mr. Pyle, would you like to say anything in support of this application?
I could just give a quick here. I can just give a quick rundown of what we're trying to do. We're just trying to put a shopping center in with 5 or 6 spaces in there. Could be anything from coffee shop, restaurant, boutique, insurance. So anything similar to that for rent. We're trying to put a drive-through on each end possibly. So probably a 60 deep building by 150 foot wide. So parking in the back, double parking in the front. So I mean, that's pretty much the main components of it.
Okay. Is there anyone here to speak in opposition of this application? Everyone's here for the other application? Okay. I guess we can have any questions from the
Okay, I have a question.
panel? Okay.
Okay, are you just planning to do the first floor, or first floor and second floor? What are you?
Just single floor.
So they're gonna be taking down,
demoed out.
if I'm saying, are you gonna be demoing out the existing?
Yes, correct. The existing structure it wasn't maintained properly and it's kind of beyond repair at this point.
So I have a question. You, the applications or the potential people that would go into that, you applied for C6?
Yes, I believe so.
That is way more liberal than what you're talking. Why did you ask for so much?
I think C6 just keeps us open as far as what can go in there.
You can basically do whatever you want to do.
Yes,
in
I mean, we
C6.
would turn it down, like, if we had like a dispensary or something that wanted to rent a portion, we would turn something like that down. Because I'm sure our other renters would not be in agreement with having that next door or anything like that. We're not in agreement with that, so.
Well, I think a dispensary would be
Everyone
available
has
in
a
any.
copy of that. You can look at on the far right-hand side of the page. It's several pages long. These are all, everything with an X is a permitted use in the C6. That just goes through what we have in our city ordinances.
I may be incorrect, but if I applied for any other zoning, then it wouldn't keep us quite as open for certain things to go in there. You kind of have to have a list beforehand of what you may rent for. Is that correct?
Right, so the different zone designations have their limits. So C6 is the most liberal. Almost anything can go in there.
So are you just wanting it for retail spaces?
Yes.
Individual retail spaces?
Yes. And then we were gonna leave it open and say like, I mean, we have the ability to go 6 spaces wide, but let's say somebody comes in and they need 2 spaces wide, then we're gonna.
So is there enough parking for a retail space that size?
I think we've got room for like 48 spots. That's what we calculated.
In addition to the building of the retail building?
Yes, correct. I think by calculation, I think the max that we would actually be required are like 35.
So also in your papers, you have kind of an overview. The areas highlighted. Looks like this.
Is that Kingfisher Auto Transport? I thought that was, isn't that the church right
It's
there?
a church. I
Okay,
don't know
that's like-
where that
I've never seen that
designation
there.
came from. I don't know. That is definitely not an auto transport.
Okay,
It's just a church. So a church is a permitted use. That block is part of Admire Edition, and a church is a permitted use in a residential area. Basically, a church is a permitted use in basically every area. So to find a church there isn't unusual. After speaking with city's council, city attorney, there were a couple of concerns is, while yes, there are businesses to the north and to the east, they're considering it spot zoning because this entire area is part of Admire Edition plat, which is all still considered and still zoned as residential. So to take one piece of it out and zone it something else would be spot zoning. So that's one concern. Another concern is C6 is pretty broad. Basically, it's opening to a lot of different uses that might not be as desirable. So that makes it a lot easier on the business owner, but that makes it a little bit more difficult because once that barn door is open and the horse is out, you can't bring it back in. So that's another concern. Now, the question was raised today of whether we could say, well, as a planning committee, we could okay another zoning district that's a little bit less permissive, a little bit more restrictive. Honestly, I don't know how that works. I don't know if he would need to reapply for something that's a little bit less permissive, or I don't know how that actually goes.
So do you have any plans whatsoever as to what you're gonna put in there?
As far as the retail spaces, as far as what would be a renter, or the.
I mean, what you're gonna,
Or the
anything,
actual
what are you gonna
building.
put in there?
So the actual building,
Yeah,
so on the actual building, we haven't officially drawn it up yet because we haven't got everything approved, but it would be a brick veneer building, and we would most likely do all storefront glass across the whole front, and probably like some decorative, like black metal awnings above the storefront, like all across the front. So to make it look nice from the road and everything.
well, I find it hard to approve that without knowing what's gonna go in there.
So
What's it zoned right now?
Residential.
Leave it there until you come up with something.
That was another concern that came forth. I don't have a lot of history with this, but the attorney said that usually in the rezoning, there's the builders bringing some sort of plan so
Yeah.
that we know what the building's gonna look like.
Usually, yeah.
I mean, we can provide something, like pictures of something similar. We just didn't want to spend the money at this point without approval to get like blueprints engineered and everything up front.
And we didn't have any response from anybody around them?
No, everything was focused on our second item.
It seems like to me Kingfisher's got a lot of empty storefronts downtown. You know, would you be able to fill it? You know, there's that too.
I think we'd be able to fill it for sure, just because of the location, the main street. We'd have more parking than downtown areas, and the downtown, a lot of the buildings downtown are getting in worse and worse condition as they're aging. So, and in years to come, I think some of the buildings downtown are gonna be beyond repair, beyond what the owner wants to put in to keep them going and rentable at that point.
Since it's already zoned for residential, did you not consider turning it into apartments?
Apartments, we have not at this time, but
You're basically looking at retail shops, right?
yes, it would be very
Individual.
similar to what's out in front of Walmart by the dentist office.
What's that currently zoned at? Do you know? Off the top of your head.
Off the top of my head, I don't know.
Has there been a market analysis done on the projected demand for retail spaces in Kingfisher right now? I've noticed a lot of empty retail spaces, and my concern would be having more setting on the market, which, you know, skews public perception a tiny bit when we're trying to recruit new businesses to the community. And would you be able to be comparative in rental prices as the shops on Main Street, so there isn't, you know, a distraction from supporting our historical part of Maine? Have you looked at the financial side of that?
Ma'am, could you identify yourself, please?
I'm Kaylee Ball. I'm a property owner here in Kingfisher. My family has farmed and ranched here for a long time, and I
Okay.
have done policy research for the last 7 years on a state and national level.
I would say we'd be very comparable to other retail spaces in town as far as rent goes. So usually on commercial space, it's all by square footage. You get rent on from anywhere from $18 to $22 a square foot. Usually. So we're thinking it'd be somewhere right in that range.
I'm Sharon Yoder. Has anyone looked at traffic flow there? That's an awful lot of in and outs on both sides of Main Street. It's difficult to get on Main Street now without additional driveways opening up.
We haven't looked at the traffic count there, but ideally we would like to put one entry and exit on the side street, and then just one entry and exit on the opposite side of the parking lot on Main Street. It would be on the,
Real plan.
it'd be almost half a block over from the side street.
Any other questions? Mr. Sanders?
Yeah, Mike Sanders, Kingfisher. Questions that I have, just some concerns. One, it sounds like you're going to build something with no guarantee of
Right,
rentals, people going in there. Is that correct?
right.
No, we would, most likely wouldn't have any contracts signed, like right when we began construction, but we've had quite a bit of interest from people seeking out that would like to possibly rent.
Follow up.
So,
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So question is, my follow-up, there's no guarantee that those places, obviously with the vacant areas that we have around town and other places to build, would, or could you guarantee, I mean, obviously, I know the answer, so I'm gonna ask it. Can you guarantee that those places, those 5 or 6 businesses will remain vacant? I mean, if you don't have businesses that wanna come in, I mean, you've got kids around that area, I mean, there's no sidewalks on further south and north of that area. People coming through yards and whatnot due to the possible lack of parking or whatever the case might be. I just think there's a lot of concern, and one thing that I am also concerned about is the type of zoning. I think with the current status, it seems pretty vague, and you can tell us today that you don't want to put a wheat shop in there, but I mean, there's no guarantee that something like that, speaking of weed, we'll talk to that later. I mean, there's a lot of concerns on this, I think, speaking to the church folk and everyone in that neighborhood.
From the sidewalk standpoint, we would like to put a sidewalk on the north end of our parking lot, and then another going on the Main Street side of our parking lot.
Gotcha.
That would run along those streets.
That's on that property. What are you
Yes,
talking
on
about
our
putting-
property.
Okay, but not people coming from the north or south, walking on people's yards that are north and south of the Lutheran Church.
I don't believe there's any there right now.
There's not. Just concerns, big ones.
Anybody else to speak on this issue?
Yeah, this Warren Clayton, this would be backed up to the eye clinic?
The eye clinic is just across the road to the north.
Gotcha. Okay.
Is that it, Mr. Clayton?
I mean, we would be open to another zoning besides C6, as long as it's not too restrictive I mean, our main thing is to have something, like I said earlier, like coffee shop or restaurant or pharmacy, and we're not necessarily trying to steal renters from other places. We'd like to bring new places into town, and have new businesses.
Well, I feel like there's, based on the discussion, there seems to be a lack of communication and concern over, lack of communication, lack of materials that have been provided related to that would support considering C6 zoning, and that also seems pretty broad under the circumstances. But with that being said, I don't know, is there a motion to approve the application or deny it? I guess is there a motion to approve, and then we can deny it by our votes?
You can make your motion whatever you want, you just have to tell me what you're
Okay.
going to motion.
Does anyone want to make a motion?
Well, I move that the property there on Main Street remain as residential
Is there a second?
zoning.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'm also going to say aye in favor of the motion, but with the understanding that I personally wouldn't be opposed to you coming back with some additional materials and seeking a less or more restrictive commercial zoning.
Okay.
So with that said, the motion to leave it as residential has passed. Okay. We will move on to the discussion. Possible action to approve the owner of the property at 113 North 6th Street requesting horticulture and/or medical marijuana grow be permitted for this particular property, which is zoned C3. Mr. Stewart, would you like to address this issue?
Good afternoon, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak with you today. My name is Jay Stewart, and I'm here on behalf of our family-owned hardware store, which has proudly serviced this community for the last 38 years. We are deeply invested in this town, not just in business, but in its people, its progress, and its future. And we hope through proper succession planning to be here for another 40 years. I'm here today to ask for your consideration and support of a proposal to repurpose an old storage building on our property, located within city limits, but not visible, nor is it accessible from the main road. Turn it into a plant nursery. Specifically, this would include a marijuana grow nursery focused solely on mother plants and clones. So let me be clear. I don't want to smell this. I don't want anybody else to smell this. I don't want anybody to know it's there. I want it to be invisible to all of our senses, both sight, smell, everything. So this facility would not include any processing, flowering, blooming, or marijuana plants that have the pungent smell. It means no odors, no retail operation, no increase in traffic, and most importantly, no visibility. It will function similar to other propagation greenhouses, where the growing starts, but the finished product happens somewhere else. The infrastructure improvements would allow us to grow vegetables, flowers, and other nursery stock in the same space, expanding what we can offer to our customers and to our community. The growers that are involved with this are local, reputable, and legally licensed currently. They're not large out-of-town corporations, and they're not foreign illicit operators. They're Kingfisher County residents. We are taking every precaution to ensure the facility meets state compliance and city codes and maintains the integrity of our neighborhood. From a business standpoint, this project would bring critical benefits. As you all know, small businesses are under immense pressure right now. Excuse me. Over the last year, our store sales are down 8.5% from last year, which was down 4.5% from the year before. Couple that with the utility costs that are up 11.5%, insurance that's up another 3.5%. These numbers are not sustainable without adapting. The rental income from this nursery, as well as long-term building improvements it brings, will help stabilize our finances, allow us to reinvest in our store, our employees, and our community. This is not just a survival move, it's part of a broader effort to keep our business relevant, responsible, and rooted here in our town. We're not asking for special treatment, only for the opportunity to grow literally and figuratively in a way that is safe, quiet, and beneficial to everyone. Thank you for your time and for your thoughtful consideration. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions?
It is the back east warehouse. It's not our main east warehouse. It's located off of 5th Street.
So to clarify, you guys have maps that look like this. The frontage part that's here on 6th Street isn't part of that. The building are adjoining, but it's the back half. It's a warehouse in the back that's accessible through the alley.
And everyone here is in favor of this? Is there any questions from the committee? No, we can take, I think what we'll do is, I see a lot of,
I don't want the kids smelling it. I want you guys to know that. I don't want anybody to smell it. I don't want anybody to know that it's there. I want it to be invisible.
well, I know Mr. Harrison's office is nearby, so Ralph, did you want to say anything, objection to it? You maybe express thoughts that everybody else is here, so I'll give you the first crack at it.
Okay. Well, again, I'm Ralph Harrison. Our law office is located close to this. And again, of course, I had no real knowledge as far as exactly what they planned to do there. Certainly caused some concern for a marijuana grow operation. I know what most of us think about, for that type of thing. And it just seemed to me while I have no real objection to someone having this, it just seemed like an inappropriate location for it with residential residential area, business area, and that type of thing. So, that's my main objection to it. Would not object to it being somewhere else, but in the area that they're requesting, it just didn't seem to fit in our locale.
Thank you, Mr. Harrison. Does anybody have any different sentiments than what Mr. Harrison expressed? I mean, we can let everybody, well, we're not going to let everybody talk, but
I
but it's-
second this, Mr. Harris. My name is Taylor Tubach, and I will be taking over the Blair Care Center as Busy Bees Academy. I know Jay mentioned that you don't want to smell it and all of that, but how do you get rid of that smell when it's so strong?
The smell, you shut it down.
How do you shut it down?
They're mother plants, so the smell comes from blooms, comes from flowers. So a mother plant is a vegetative plant that doesn't flower. They clip it, they clone it, they create more baby plants. Then they take that to their outdoor growth facilities located outside of city limits. This facility is needed because these individuals, one's a Kingfisher County resident or Kingfisher City resident, this outdoor grow, OMA requires them to have a certificate of occupancy. Well, on an outdoor grow that has no buildings, they can't have a certificate of occupancy. So in order for them to renew their license, they have to have a facility that can be certificate of occupancy. And so originally when it was brought to me, I said no. I said, no way, this is not right. I've been assured there will be no snow. The mother plants that do with the air circulation with carbon filters, let's just take care of all that.
Have you?
If it does smell, I shut it down.
Okay. So, I know you mentioned that it's not accessible from the main road.
Correct.
Is that legal considering fire issues, like safety hazards and stuff like that?
It's only accessible through the alley.
Okay, so let's say your place catches on fire because it takes a lot of electricity to run. So is that allowing all of your fire trucks and ambulance and all of them to get there?
I'm not sure that's going to be up to the fire chief when it comes to those regulations.
Okay, so another concern that I had for just like crime rate, referencing just like Okarchi last week, I don't feel like it's safe to have somewhere like that close to a child care, because then that's putting those, increasing the risk
Your
for those
concerns
children.
are absolutely valid, and I want you to know that I care about those concerns. I truly do. I want you to be successful. We need your business. We
Absolutely.
need it badly. I don't want to offend the neighborhood or my customers or anybody else involved. This is a business transaction that I was assured there'd be no smell. The building is already monitored. It's already under our insurance. It's already under our security program. Any infrastructure improvements, so they'd have to spray foam it. They'd have to bring in air conditioning, air cleaners, lights. I believe it already has 3-phase electric going to it, so there's quite a bit of power already going to it as it is. And this building has been nothing but more than storage for my grandfather's tools for the last 20 years.
Have you physically been in a place that claims to not have the smell and not smelled it?
In a bloom room, no. But in a clone room, yes.
My concern would be, you say there's not going to be any odor. Ashley Vasquez. What type of recourse would the community have if, in fact, we do end up having odors? Then what?
I believe they're already. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
So first of all, this would be the first phase. It also would have to go through planning. It would have to go through building, right? To be in compliance, it has to comply with state codes. Now, we do have nuisance codes, so if there is something that's a noise issue or a smell issue, whether, say it's a noise issue, some people, like I was just at a property today to inspect plumbing, and there's roosters. I'm like, okay, that's a noise issue, right? A smell issue is the same thing. You're not caring for animals and becomes noxious smells. So the city has means of addressing nuisance issues currently. That's not to say I'm advocating for it one way or another. Personally, I know what the city has their feelings on, and we actually have some good correspondence from, is it Kaylee? That actually, if we could have her before we cut off conversation, she's one that sent several pieces of information, but
Is she here?
Yes, but as far as concerns about nuisances, yes, noise, smell can be shut down if for some reason it was approved. Like I said, there's multiple things. This would just be that first hurdle.
So just remember, it's a conditional use permit. Once you approve it, it still has to go before the council. So this
Yes.
is not the first stop. It still has to be approved from your city council.
Yes.
So whatever, if you approve it, it still has to go in front of the council.
And is Kayla who?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Kate, I didn't know your last name again.
Ball, oh, sorry. Did you want to say something?
Do you mind taking the mic? I think it'd be easier if everyone.
I came not to really support either side, but to be a bipartisan, common sense voice on both sides of this issue. I am a patient that has had my life saved by cannabis. I'm a business owner that has ran a dispensary. I'm a public policy research consultant that has worked with OBN, OMA, and the state to help establish safety protocols and standards throughout Oklahoma, and have also traveled nationwide to advise other organizations on how to come to a collaborative approach in communities when we are faced with the simple fact that we have a state law that we have to abide by. Whether we like cannabis or not, whether the smell annoys us or not, it has to be regulated similarly to every other industry that is comparable to it. So, as someone who just really cares about land use, our citizens, our economy, and rural development, I felt like it was just absolutely necessary for me to provide some legislative research that I've done over the last 7 years to the city to help kind of highlight some of the legal challenges that can arise when, pushing for bans on different industries, especially when bans that would impact an established economy or that has paid a significant amount of tax dollars into our revenue budget. And seeing that we are in economic downturns, I just want to make sure that we really understand the fiscal implications on both sides of this argument. I shared all of this research with Linda. I've broken down estimates out on what each approach would cost the community and the best practices that have been implemented in different cities throughout Oklahoma, including rural communities that are similar to Kingfisher, and have been successful in addressing the very real concerns that Busy Bees has brought to our attention. But I also underline that we have just an obligation to meet statutes as a city, and to ensure that we aren't exposing our taxpayers to any unnecessary legal challenges or expenses, or just to kind of, one little data point that I like to think about is that overregulation can end up costing $7 per every dollar invested in overregulation. So when we look at that extra $6 of cost of what it would take to enforce these bans and restrictive ordinances, that I feel like the city has taken a very balanced approach to reviewing cannabis policy in Kingfisher, and did a great job at really finding a solution that helps our economy and patients and protects the safety and well-being of our community. And so I just I want to make sure that we look at this with a fiscal lens and make sure that we don't cut off the good players at their knees, because if you haven't gotten to know the local cannabis producers in Kingfisher, do it. Call them, go to their operations, ask for a tour, learn what they do. They are some of the most compassionate, hardworking people I have ever met in my life. And while I agree, there are some horrible players in this industry. I have had to be an expert witness for numerous cases where there is just belligerent, illegal behavior that happens. But our state has taken a very, very proactive approach to this. And you can see that reflected in OBN numbers, and you can see that in the downsizing of this industry already. So instead of, fighting for all-out bans, maybe it might serve us better if we come together as a community and come up with an action plan where we can all self-report. We can get to know our neighbors and we can collaborate a little bit better instead of becoming more and more polarized. I'm happy to talk to anyone at any time and give any research that either side of this argument would love to have, because I'm just a data person. I don't care either way who wins this battle, but I want to see Kingfisher thrive, and I want rural development to continue to make strides here. And I'm just so proud of what we've done and the chamber has done, and I want to see people like the Pyles be able to fill their businesses. I want to see Jay continue to be an anchor in our community, whatever direction he goes in. And I want Busy Bees to become one of the most needed childcare centers that we've been waiting for in Kingfisher for a while, and thrive and feel safe and be able to have their customers feel safe as well.
Okay.
So
I have a question.
yeah.
So in your experience, do you have experience with a propagation house as is proposed?
I have seen issues with that, and it usually is due to lack of oversight. I think one of our biggest advantages is that we have such hawk eyes on every community member here that we could, one, have special ordinance requests for an operation like this that essentially says, here's a social responsibility contract. I voluntarily commit to go above and beyond city ordinances to address these community concerns. If I do not follow that, I am willingly opening myself to fines or deregulation.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Ball.
I have a question. So the intention is not to have the blooming plants there. Who regulates that so that it doesn't at some point expand to that?
The state does.
Well, in this situation, it would be me, because again, I don't want to smell it. I don't want my customers smelling it. I don't want the inventory smelling. I don't want the pungent smell in our neighborhood.
Right, I'm just saying, how do we know?
Because
So
he
that's
would
the
have to have
type
a
of
grow
license,
license.
the type of license?
He has to have a nursery license,
Gotcha.
yeah, and it's separate from a grow license. So if he wants to take it past a certain growth phase, he'll have to have a grow license in addition
Correcting
to
it,
the
I don't have any
nursery.
license. This is not my license.
Right.
I'm simply the property owner that's trying to lease a property to an individual that is already licensed.
Okay, who is the licensed individual?
I'm not getting about their names. One of them's an electrician here in town, the other one's a home builder.
That's totally fine, but I have read somewhere, and I don't know how valid it is, but I have read that in order to have a grow house and a license, you have to own the property as well. They cannot be leasing it.
I don't think that's the case in this situation.
Correct.
Well, I think moving forward, if we're gonna have, I'm okay with an open conversation.
But I think the general presentation, thank you, Mr. Stewart, has been made, and the objections have been voiced. I don't know if to me, it's not necessarily about regulating the industry. It's whether or not this piece of property can be used as a potential grow house. And I'm using that term loosely, whether it be mother plants or other flowering plants or whatever. I think that's the issue, and that it be close to downtown, I just think that, I mean, in my opinion, it's not the appropriate place. There should be other places that something like this, that they could find this facility at a different location other than downtown. That's my personal opinion. With that said, if anybody has any comments, or we can make a motion to either deny or approve the application.
Excuse me, I've got a question for Jay. What would happen with all the waste? Like the plant waste?
These are baby plants. These are seedlings that are going to be transferred to an outdoor grow facility where they will grow. They will bloom. They will be harvested there. They will be processed there. That takes place outside the city limits. It takes place out my building. I don't know.
So you wouldn't any of that other stuff?
I wouldn't think so. I would think most of the case that was going to be probably sticky traps. I don't think there will be chemical as far as fertilizers that will go, because it's all little plants. They're not trying to make those plants grow there. They're trying to keep them alive and transplant them to the outdoor grow facility.
Okay. Being no further questions, we have a...
Well, I got a question.
Okay.
You said that the city has their opinion.
The general opinion that I surmise from the conversations that I've had are that they feel like we have already established agricultural and light industrial as permitted. And right now we don't have any other zones that are permitted, so that the city would encourage that to happen in a zone that's already permitted.
So is the city okay with paying the, like $6,500 to so many $1,000s to do that every year to check on it?
Oh, to regulate them?
Yeah, because
I don't know why.
Well, here's one thing that I do know is, as Bailey had said, Kaylee had said, that the state mandates that we cannot just blanket prohibit it. It has to be prohibited at some level, right? And it's up to the committee to decide how that's going to look. So we
But
can't.
that was established with the industrial and the agricultural.
Right, so I don't know enough about these laws to really speak to it, but I know at least we've done that much. I will speak to my relationship to one of the people that is planning on growing, and this is not this city's opinion, this is my personal opinion, that he's a resident. He's a very capable young man that has done this in other cities without issue. So if that means anything, but that's my personal experience with one of the people that's planning on doing the work.
But it's currently zoned family?
Commercial retail.
Yeah, it is, if you look at your, go back. Unfortunately, it's not that very clear here.
Light industrial zone?
It's,
Well,
see, unfortunately, our zoning needs to be cleaned up because we have conflicting information.
Here it says C1.
But right now, it's
If I read that
retail.
right.
okay. Well, just this, what you hand out here
Unfortunately,
says
that retail
chilling.
also includes some houses. That's why it's very difficult to rely exclusively on these maps.
Gotcha.
But they do have some truth to them, because when you look, and sometimes you can see a block that's zoned retail, and half of the block is houses, and like in this case, half of the block is definitely being used commercially.
Well, I think, does anybody have a motion?
I make a motion that we reject this application.
Is there a second?
I second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries to deny the application. We'll move on to, is there any other business that we need to take up? There being no other business, is there a motion to adjourn the meeting?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Is there a second? There's a second. Reggie seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We are adjourned.